Now, before the days of the French poupée, which we commonly think of as the bisque poupée, made of bisque material, certainly the fashion doll was also very prevalent in France for well over a century and became more and more commercially available to young ladies as the 1800s went on. First in material made of paper mache with a very definitely lady face and lady body and beautiful women's costumes. And then for a short period of time, between the paper mache and the bisque dolls, were models that were offered made of porcelain. Sometimes, in a very few cases, the porcelain heads would have been made in France, such as those dolls offered by Romer, and other times, German porcelain doll heads were used, but put on, at the time, French pink hand-stitched kid lady bodies, very, very firmly stuffed, and I hate to think of the person who was making them because they had to have been made so delicately, the body's just very firmly stuffed with horsehair or reindeer hair, whatever they were using, and then very laboriously hand-stitched along all of the seams to be as firm as they could so they would stay. Originally, these bodies, the costumes were stitched onto the bodies, but starting about 1847, the costumes began to be made to be removed, and that was truly the beginning of the French fashion doll as we know it, because the costumes could be removed for children to play with it. I have a wonderful example from As If in a Looking Glass of a French fashion doll made originally with the German porcelain head, with the French pink kid poupée body, shapely lady body, and again, with her wonderful original trousseau. And sadly, I have no provenance. I don't know who owned it originally, but I do know it has stayed original, for now 170 years. And wow, that's pretty remarkable. Now, as for the doll itself, she's very, very beautiful, and I'm going to turn it around because one of the things I wasn't able to show in the book I want you to see here, because her original wig is so extraordinary. It is hand-stitched human hair wig made with the most delicate, tiny braids and then wrapped into a chignon at the back of her head. And what's wonderful is that the coif that she is wearing, this very daintily sewn coif, was made to accommodate the particular chignon, so it fits perfectly around it and allows the beautiful back of her hair fashion to show, and yet at the same time, the frame of the chignon of the coif itself becomes a wonderful frame with fine hand stitching. Now we're going to look at all of her costumes because these costumes would again now be emblematic of the 1850 to late 1850 period. Very beautiful gowns. We're going to look at them quickly, and I'm going to turn them all around so you can notice stylistic things such as the pagoda sleeves, the wide flared sleeves, very, very stylistic. Notice the use of the crisp taffeta materials, which was very prevalent at the time. Crisp very, very fine silk taffetas and beautiful black Alisson lace. Very simple costumes designed not to have all of the flair and the flounces and the bustles of the dolls from the 1870 periods, but very modest dressing. If you could see inside these costumes, I would tell you, you would be astonished, however, at the intricate construction that went into the making of them. When I first saw this one, I was kind of taken aback because I thought it just doesn't seem that this dress could be original, because why would it be that large pattern? It's very, very normal for doll costumes to have a small pattern that would accommodate itself to the size of the doll. But I've examined this costume carefully, and I am convinced that it was made at the time and is totally original. And what I'm probably thinking, since many of the costumes for this doll were beautifully stitched but made in the home by someone with fine sewing skills, that perhaps it was an upholstery fabric for a very, very fine settee that had been covered, and this was a scrap of material that was left, and it was made into a dress for this beautiful doll, but it is totally original. I love this dress because I love the way the ribbon design of the dress, the way they've chosen the fabric to actually The panel right down the front is very, very lovely, and the very use of the taupes and the browns and the sort of striped black, the very, I don't think striped is the word, where it's like a threaded design going through the fabric. It's just very beautiful, with the black box pleats at the edge of the sleeves, the black Alisson lace, the pleats repeated, the black pleats repeated at the skirt. Let me just pull this up so you can see it falling nicely. And then when you turn it around, just beautifully designed at the back. Very lovely. The dress she's wearing is that very, very fine. I'm going to hold my hand under it so you can see this very fine sheer material with very beautiful woven design throughout it, both in the bands coming down and then the tiny threads going through. Very fine weaving, and it is like a two-part dress that is designed to be open at the front, showing her modest little chemisette underneath. I'll turn it around so again you can get a full view of her from top to bottom. This is a very, very pretty soft blue silk dress, and when you look at the bottom, look at this fringe of fabric that runs all the way around the bottom, vertical ruffles that are coming up that lend this wonderful little decorative detail, and that extends completely around the dress, the vertical bands. If you have a close-up of those, you can see how they're constructed if you're doing what I suggest, which is hastily drawing, making little drawings of how things are made. And when we come around to the front again, I want to show you that she has her beautiful black fur cape. And when we take it off, we see, again, the beautifully designed, slightly V front, but very firmly fitted, beautifully shaped coat sleeves. Very lovely dress, and then made very special by having a little capelet collar that she wears. And speaking of capelet collars, I'm going to hold this up so you can see the drape of it fully. A black velvet with lace, double ruffle of lace, one coming to here and the other extending all the way down, black braid around here, and black lace collar on this gorgeous, gorgeous evening cape. Then we have a lovely pink ribbon satin dress with an embroidered apron. We have her day dress of fine white mauve cotton and her little apron designed to wear over it. And we have a plethora of other wonderful accessories, like she also owns a hoop skirt. She owns this very unusual, I don't know if it's a petticoat or a skirt. I haven't been able to figure it out, but I'm inclined to think a skirt with an overlay apron is how she would have worn it, but I don't know. Very, very, these are all sewn on little beads. There is a silk skirt and there is an evening dress. Here's a wonderful little satin skirt. And here is a wonderful cape. Very interesting pieces. Before the dolls became so highly commercialized in Paris in the 1860s, many of the costumes were made at home, so you find this wide divergence. But now I'm going to show you the hats, because the hats are just the best, I think. We have this little evening cap with lace ruffle at the top, tulle back, green satin ribbons. We have this wonderful, it looks like it's a quilted hat, but it really isn't. It just has stitching going through it to give that quilted look, a very delicate pale aqua silk with feathers and lace. And here's the lining. And then we have a wonderful woven bonnet Again, they look so simple until you start to look at them and really study how they're made, because it has the draped patterned silk ribbon going all the way around and then terminating in like a large silk button at the back. We have a woven white hat with little pointy edges at 4 tiers, and it has, this is the face, the internal lace ruffle, the little blue silk, and again, lace ruffle that would tumble down to the back of her hair. Now, for some of her dresses, the black straw would be the best. It has silk streamers with lace that would tumble in the back, and little pink rosebuds with more lace that would be at the front of her face. It's fully lined, by the way. And then, just a few more. You have this very simple one, just designed to like fit over the top of her head. Again, letting that wonderful braided chignon she has show. And it has a ruffle of black lace at the front and long black streamers to hang down. And this is really extravagant. It's like fitted to go at the top of her head. I don't know which of her costumes this would go with, maybe perhaps this one. And it's covered with white feathers, soft white feathers, and a blue velvet ribbon tie. And now I've saved my favorite for last because I just love this hat. So first we'll start with the back side of it. We have this beautiful, well, it's like a black velvet frame with a little wire hidden frame underneath. Black velvet brim, and then a Scottish blue taffeta covering the back. This is draped, heavily draped to give it shape, and with streamers, scalloped edge streamers coming down. And then the black brim is edged with wonderful, gorgeous, dainty lace. And then we turn it around, and inside we find the original net lining. We find beautiful pink silk flowers at the crown. It would just be right above her forehead curls when she's wearing it. And again, edged with beautiful, beautiful silks. And finally, this lovely lady, and we're going to just show you a pan shot of them, has a wonderful group of dainty little accessories because she needed to have her toys, and she needed her perfumes and her jewelry and her opera glasses, and they're all here for her. And then to keep them all intact, her original trunk, which gives the only clue to her background that the trunk was made by a luggage company that made doll trunks as well as real people trunks in Lyon, France. So there is a bit of clue to her. I think the reason that dolls with trousseaux kind of reach out to us so much is that they become, if they're original trousseaux, they're like a frozen moment in time, and it's history, and that's what so many of us who love antique objects and collect them find is most charming and enchanting about them is their entirety of their time. We have a wonderful doll that came from the collection of Jean Strong that is included in this catalog. Jean Strong lived in Williamsville, New York. And among her dolls, she had this paper mache doll. And when I first saw the doll, when I unpacked it, I thought, oh, I don't know. She's had a lot of love in her time. She's pretty worn. I don't know if I could have her in the catalog. She might not be in a well enough condition, or good enough condition. I did like the little costume that was on her. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. And then I kept unpacking, and I found the trunk that came with her, which I hadn't yet uncovered, and the wonderful story that goes with this doll. So I don't care how worn and loved and tattered this doll is. It's her story. It's her life story is what her charm is. She belonged to Harriet Simons, who died at age 16 in 1863. She had owned this doll as a young girl, probably starting about 1860. That's about the age the doll would be. And she had been sick for a number of years, and she spent her latter teen years making costumes for this doll. This is what pleased her and what cherished her and what made the time pass. Now, I think that this wonderful doll, which was known as Hattie, named after Harriet, and this was named that by Harriet herself. I think that Harriet also had to use existing fabrics in the home to make costumes for her dolls, because once again we see the pattern of fabric that really the design is too large for this doll, and surely had to be a scrap of fabric left for making costumes for the grown-up women in the family. Many of the costumes are very, very similar, the cotton ones in particular. Here's another larger fabric than you would have expected to find. But simple sleeves, fitted waist, rounded collar, very certain designs used over and over. One of the things, getting away from the provenance for a minute, about the fashions of this doll that is really interesting are to look at the colors of the costumes and the fabrics and the patterns, because this is so indicative of this time period. A lot of the creams and the browns and the burnt reds, some of the soft blues. These are very, very interesting things. And I'm just going to kind of turn these around so you can see things as we're talking more about the history of the doll. A lovely gown that has long tulle sous sleeves coming down. So she was learning different elements of sewing. I like to think of Harriet Ladlow, and I like to think that this make her life she made moments of joy when she made a beautiful costume for her doll, and she must have dreamed of the places she might be going. Again, think of the time that this was. It was 1863. The Civil War was going on. There was a lot happening in America at that time, and you can almost see the history of this doll. And by the way, included with her, I'm not showing you the trunk, are a lot of newspaper clippings at the time of her death, and of the death of her niece, who inherited the doll, also named Harriet, and who lived to the age of 105. This is a wonderful gown. This very, very beautiful black gown is almost like a morning gown, and it has this wonderful little headpiece that goes with it. Again, sous sleeves, black velvet ribbons. This is a little 16-year-old girl who's ill, who is sewing all of these costumes. A day dress with a beautiful open front, and turning it around, wonderful fitting at the back. The simple house dress that the doll is wearing with the matching transfer. A lot of these old fabrics are actually transfer printed fabrics. Wonderful. We have more cotton dresses here. There are 16 dresses in all, and they're not all in the best of condition, but they are here. That's wonderful. Look how they combined the ribbon with the fabric. That's a nice transfer pattern on that dress. Little accessories as well, like this wonderful little jacket. Another wonderful dress. This would be the skirt that probably went with that jacket. There's more. I can see more aprons in there. Here's all of the newspaper clippings that go with the doll. And the costumes just go on and on. Here's another one. I love this one because it has the open front, and then it has a skirt to have below. So very, very nice day dress. And turning it over, look at how complicated the sleeve detail is on that with the ruffle and the plaid. I know if you're watching this, you just want to get your hands on this and be able to look at each piece in detail. It's a joy. It's an absolute pleasure. And because every doll needs her things, like every lady needs her things. So she has a trunk with all sorts of great accessories. Here's a little petticoat. She even has her little doll with a dress that is handmade by Harriet. Baskets, little boxes, and then wonderful bonnets. I love this one in particular. It's almost like a shaker style bonnet. There's a black bonnet that might go with her black best dress over there. Look at this one. This is beautiful. That's wire-edged, patterned cotton, silk ribbons in the back, little straw bonnets, and just wonderful accessories like that. So Harriet died at the age of 16 in 1863. And the trunk and all of the costumes and accessories that she had handmade were willed to her niece, who was also named Harriet. And Harriet, the niece, kept this doll until she died well into the next century at the age of 103. Her dolls went to auction. And Jean Strong of Williamsville, New York, and this is important because this is a quest for all of you who are collectors, heard about the doll, and she knew that the doll had belonged to this young girl who lived in Franklin, New York, which was the hometown of Jean when she was a little girl. And she went to the auction house. I don't know who it was in the 1960s. And found out who had bought it, and she tracked the person down, and she begged them to buy it, and the person sold it to her. And she kept it in her collection until this time, when she now is closing her collection, and it's going on to the hands of the next person who hopefully will cherish the provenance and the history of this doll, as well as all the wonderful, wonderful clothes.